What is good, everybody? What is good? We are live with Free Show Friday. I am Gary Bikes, Gary B. Jr., your media consultant, and I can't wait to talk with you guys today. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna have some good time today. I am looking at something on my OBS feed. It looks kind of weird. Uh, like it's a little blurry or something up under me down there at the bottom. I'm not sure what's causing that. Oh, that's me. It's literally my tablet right there. Okay. Interesting. Let me lower that down real quick. Hold on. It's literally on a magic arm, so it can go down. Didn't notice it. All right. So hopefully y'all had a great weekend, a great week, I should say, and are ready to get into some Free Show Friday stuff. We're going to have quite a few things to talk about, but in the meantime, what I want to make sure to remind you of is to always ask questions. This is what started Free Show Friday, is to really get to hear from you as users and potential users. I understand that everybody that joins in with us is not currently a user. However, they are definitely interested in Free Show. And so this is a time to get those questions asked. And we're going to address some of those thoughts that you might have about Free Show and hopefully give you some clarity on the ways to approach it. That's really the main thing, is how do you approach Free Show? And so as we get started, I like to make sure to share some of the things that have happened in the past week. So this past week, we released a few videos. And if you are joining us, make sure to let me know where you're from. Tell me your name and where you're from in the chat. I love to hear from you guys. I see that Al said he can't make it. He was the first one to comment before I even got to go live. He saw the live feed was happening, and so he ended up making a comment. He said, "Have a great show and be blessed." So I appreciate that. And so everybody else, let me know where you're from. I'm putting my phone on Do Not Disturb just to make sure it doesn't vibrate through on my microphone and all that kind of stuff and make any extra noise. But this past week, let's look and see what we got. We got Brian from Michigan. How you doing, my man? How are you doing? So this past week, we came out with a few videos. One of the latest ones was If This Then. And this is about conditions and condition statements in Free Show. I know some of you all don't like those type of word problem and equations and things like that going back from school. At least I had a lot of people that I knew in my school growing up that they hated that. And I got family members that hate word problems. But conditions are a really cool way for you to use Free Show and do some creative stuff, right? Because for me, that's one of my favorite things about Free Show is a lot of the room that I have for creativity. All right. So understanding how to use conditions is a big part of that. But I would say that that is an intermediate to advanced level feature. As you are getting started with Free Show, conditions are not that important. Okay. The most important thing is understanding the basics. And so conditions are a good thing to understand that it's available. So check it out and say, okay, that's where I can go with. I got some ideas, but when I make videos, my whole goal is to really spark your imagination for you to figure out ways to implement something that I could never think of. Okay. I don't claim to have all the answers. Actually, this video was in response to the developer, Christopher, sending me a message and saying, "Hey, Gary, in your last video," so going back to the one before that, this emergency message video, he gave me some feedback and I had to pin that comment because it was so true, is that I actually did not explain it properly on how to use the conditions in that video, which I explained it and it worked fine in terms of it did what I wanted it to do, but it was supposed to do something more and I just didn't set it up properly. And so I looked into it some more and kind of reset to say, okay, let me make sure I explain this properly. So if people do watch this emergency video, they'll know that there's a better way that it could have been done even, right? So the emergency messages, these are like alerts. I think somebody said in their program they had before, it was called alerts, which is pretty cool. I think in Free Show it's just called message, like a message that you want to send to your audience, right? And so you can do that. And I actually just show you how you can customize it and you can make it however you want to. You don't have to make it exactly like I did. We got Sibusiso from South Africa. How you doing? We got Matt from the Philippines. Welcome, welcome, my friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad that you all can join us and be on. That is completely awesome to me that I can communicate with people from all over the world. And I'm over here in Georgia. So in America, in Georgia, and be able to connect with you guys is always fun. Always a blessing to me. And hopefully it's a blessing to you guys as well to be able to get some new insights and new information. And so feel free to ask some questions. How have things been going? This is what I ask any church that I work with as a media consultant. And you guys, I'm your media consultant to some degree, at least on this platform here. So let me know how things have been going. What are some challenges you've been running into? What are some highlights that you've been doing, or things you found out that have made your workflow a lot more efficient and easy to work with? And as I discussed this next video, this was, I think I released this on Monday, maybe Tuesday, but it was called Put PowerPoint to Bed for Ministry. I initially started out with this being RIP to PowerPoint for Ministry. And I felt bad because I don't want to speak death over anything. But I will say that PowerPoint needs to be put to bed when it comes to using it in a ministry setting, just because all the benefits that it adds, they're not as important for ministry work. They're really important for boardrooms, for presentations, for sales pitches, because one of the things that it does that it can't be rivaled to me is it can do charts and graphs in the slideshow, which is really cool. All right. I must admit, when I was working in business in corporate America, that was one of the things I really liked. And then I started using Apple's version of it called Keynote, and I liked it even more because you can embed video and all that kind of stuff. Well, enter FreeShow, and it can embed video. It doesn't necessarily do the charts and graphs, but it doesn't need to, because we're talking about a ministry setting or an event setting or a school setting or a sports setting and things like that. And so it does everything that those programs cannot do in all of those different settings, including having live scriptures and having live changes, which we'll talk about in a second here. That's some of the things we want to talk about in terms of how to approach this program. We've got to understand that. We've got to understand that. And so let me make sure we put in the date. This is today's Free Show Friday. And so that's the videos that came out. Did anybody get to see any of those? And if so, did anybody have any questions that I didn't get to answer? Because typically the questions will come up and I'll try to answer them at least within 24 hours. If I get to see it before I go to bed, I'll try to answer it then. And if not, the next day. So which one was your favorite, if any? Do you use emergency/alert messages in your ministry currently, and or do you use conditions? I want to know. So talk to me about your thoughts about those things, and even PowerPoint. Are you currently using PowerPoint? That's something that is a possibility that I don't put it past you, but I will say there are some alternatives, and one of those best alternatives is FreeShow. And if you want to know why, you can look in there. I think I gave like 10 points to kind of break down some of the top things that come to mind, just scraping the surface. And then I got some feedback on the comments, some people giving some other things. And I'm like, that it deserves a part two. So we'll see how to develop that to where it just makes more sense for people to understand it, right? Let's see. This is Neville from South Africa. How you doing? How you doing? Is it possible to do a bulk import of chords to our lyrics? We have about 1,000 songs on our database. A bulk import of chords. What program are those bulk imports of chords coming from? Would be my question. Um, that's a good question. As you all know, those who've watched me for any amount of time, I am not a music person. I got to learn and develop it, because I will be a part of something that involves music with a worship conference, I believe, that's coming up in September. And so I'll send out some information on that as well for those who are on my mailing list. And on YouTube, you'll be able to see like a post or something like that I'll try to make. But bulk import, it depends on where you're putting those from, where you importing them from, Neville. So yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure about that one. Let me see here. If we go into Free Show, and if you go to File, Import, you got all these options to import. And so so we got this Chord Pro program. If they're from Chord Pro, I'm guessing it involves the chords. Like I said, the issue I have with it is not that it's a bad question. It's just that I know so little about music. I'm not even sure how the chords are embedded or what that process looks like. I've never looked at a chord sheet or anything like that or like that before. So help me out a little bit more, Neville, about what program or what format are those chords in currently. That would help me out quite a bit. All right. Let me know. But yes, you can. I see you got this option called Chord Pro. And then Kid Lad is saying, is it possible to show a slide to a specific output only? Now that one is a little bit easier. A slide to a specific output. Um, yes and no. And I say yes and no because I know you can show certain content from a slide to a specific output. All right. And so let's go here. I'm gonna go to this training project. Um, and so this is a song on his hands. Okay, so this is a quick, short little one. All right, so let's look at this real quick. Um, to show a certain slide to a certain output. So if you right click on this and you say specific outputs, you can make it show up completely just to that one output, and you just pick one. You just simply click on the slide and just play it, right? So now what that look like is if I say specific outputs and I say I only want it to go to my live training is the one I've got, right? So I select that, all right? You'll see a pop-up say it's only going to show on live training. So this is my primary screen right now, all right? And then this is my live training screen, all right? And so if I select this first slide, right now nothing happens. Now there's a big reason for that. Part of the reason is because in my settings for that style for live training, I've got all the slides off. So I'm gonna turn the slides on real quick, all right? So stream training, I got slides off. I'll turn them on and you'll see that the slide shows it. Okay. So you'll see it down here at the bottom and you'll see it down here on the slide because I'm using the live training. The reason I keep the slides off is because I just want to show the overlays to show my Q&A and my titles and all that kind of stuff. But it does show up there, and notice that this didn't change. So yes, you definitely can. This is what was up from the show. My intro countdown is this, right? And so this is on my primary. It's still on my primary because I didn't send anything to my primary. Now, this feature is crazy because I've never talked about that. I've always only talked about it. So I don't know if this is new, but it's probably not new. I've always only talked about it from the edit page where you can actually right click on content from a slide and you can say specific outputs and go to a specific output from there. All right. So that is pretty cool, right? So I can say I want this content to go only on a certain page, and then I can put some more content on this same slide, and I can make it go to another certain output separately. All right. But yes, it's definitely possible to show a slide to a specific output only. And that's simply by going to that slide, right click on it, and then say specific output and say live training. And then when you go to that, it shows up and it pops it up there, just like you can see on the screen on the live stream. But if I were to click on this, you'll see it here, but it didn't do anything to my primary output here, which is, for example, like your in-house output. Okay. So that is pretty cool, especially if you have like a lobby um slideshow or something like that that you want to show this that you don't want anything to change in-house, and you want it to just be locked off and just be there. That is a really cool way. Or vice versa, maybe you want the lobby to be locked off and just saying welcome while everything in-house is still active and running and all that kind of stuff, right? So that is really really cool. Great question, great question. Let's see, it never says hi Gary, we have the chord sheets saved as very simple notepad files. Ooh, Neville, I can't speak to that too much just because I'm so ignorant in that arena. Oh, let me pull this up so I can get rid of my slide notes. That's a very good question. Now, what I will say is I would recommend Neville asking that on, have you ever been on Reddit before? Have you ever been on Reddit? And I might go there to let you guys see it real quick, but let me change my style back. So I'm gonna turn off my slides on my live training so you guys don't have to see that. All right. Um, And so if we go to Reddit, let me see if that can pop up here. I got this. Maybe you can get to it from here because I want to talk about this as well. Um, this is the church apps GitHub page. That's a little bit different than the Reddit page. So let me go to the Reddit page. All right. So here's where I would put that. And as a matter of fact, let me see. I don't think I can copy this out. All right. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to create a post, and this is for everybody. We can start doing this. Let's say chords into free show, and this is where a whole nother community of folks are able to help answer questions, including the developer, right? And so I'm gonna put in what you ask. I'll take out your name and my name out of it. That's not that important for this situation because this is more to a community group, right? So is it possible to do a bulk import of chords to our lyrics? We have 1,000 songs on our database, and then I'm gonna put in what you said here about it as well. And so, Neville, what you would need to do is go into this. So, and I'll just make this be a capital W. We have the chord sheet saved as very simple notepad files. All right. So chords into FreeShow is what I'm gonna call it. And I'll put a question mark because this is what I do when I have a question that I don't know the answer to. I literally will go into Reddit to see if somebody actually asked the question before. And to do that, what you can do is you can just do a search up here, type in chords. So making chords, chord pro option, different outputs, stage outputs, automate lyrics in advance. So none of these are talking about how to import them. So I think our question is going to be pretty unique, and I can just go over here. I got it saved as a part of my my recent stuff, and you'll see it, and you'll see people from all over the world. I'm not even sure what language this is. I'm guessing it's Spanish, maybe, maybe Portuguese. I'm not sure, but they're talking, and then someone else here is sharing something. They had a question, and it's a really cool community. Really cool community. Um, and so let's see here. Yep, I see you, Brian. I see you in from Michigan. How you doing? How you doing? Um, but yeah, good questions so far. Great questions, you guys. Speaking of questions, I want to talk to you all about the 1.4.8 beta 2. Has anybody seen any of this already? So quick search updates have taken place or been added. Conditions for all stage items. This is interesting because when I made that emergency alert video, if you were to go into Free Show and go to a stage view, if you were to go to a stage view like this, before, if you right clicked on this, you wouldn't get an option for conditions, but literally within days after that video came out, that was updated to where now you can right click on a countdown, you can right click on your progress, any part of your stage view, you can add a condition for it, which is a game changer if you actually use a stage view for um, the needs of the ministry, right? For the leaders on stage, because now you can customize it almost like what we did. Who asked that? Like with a Kidlat asked about specific outputs. You can literally do specific output situations for your stage view at certain times or at a certain timer. So you can say, hey, when the worship timer is going on, I want to show X, Y. You can make these things only show up when the worship timer comes on. And then you can also start another timer and make it show when the pastor's message timer comes on. I only want to show these certain things. And you can just have one stage view. As you notice here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ones, and I can use actions to switch between them. You still can use actions to start your timers, but you don't have to have more than one stage view because your stage view will literally be dynamic, right? It'll always change with the flow of the service, which is a really cool idea. I may put something together to show how you can do that, but I'm just curious who uses conditions currently, if at all, and so forth and so on. Yeah, please check it out on Reddit, Neville. That's a really good question. I wish I could answer it for you myself, but I'm not sure, so I don't want to mislead you on that one because I just know I don't know much about songs and music and stuff like that. All right. So the conditions for all stage items is really cool. Updater timer pop-up user interface. And so let me go to here. I'm going to go to show. Let's go to our timers under functions. We go here and I say new timer. Let's see what it looks like. So I say, oh, look at that. So it's got a whole new update. I'm using the beta right now. So I don't usually use the beta, but I've been using it for a good, since it came out pretty much. So pretty good part of the week. All right. Overflow when reached in. So you can turn that on. And then I got this little drop down here. Let's see if I turn that on, then it says blink or not to blink. And then you can tell it how many seconds to offset. Um, And then it's got the overflow color. You can change that to be whatever color you want. Maybe you want it to be green. Maybe you want it to be blue. Whatever you want, you can do that. But this layout is really cool. So the name, you would change it here from and then to, right? So it's counting down. So it's going to go from 5 minutes to 0 minutes if that was what I was going to select. That is a really cool setup. If I do towards a time, it looks like this. So it looks like a clock, overflow when reached, blink when overflowing. offset. Okay. And then if we do time until an event, it looks pretty much the same as well. But that countdown from start to end is really cool. Really cool layout. All right. Let's see here. Timer select. And I'm guessing they probably were going to carry that pop-up user interface over to the other options, but I don't know. Like I said, that's how it is right now in the beta. Timer select drop down shows the timer duration. So the timer select drop down shows the timer duration. All right, so the timer select drop down. Okay, got you. So if we go into FreeShow, and let's say we were going to go into a show to edit it, you can go to your items and you can add a timer. Okay, hit that. And then if you go to the timer options here, you can pick, and it shows you how long each timer is on the right side there. That wasn't always there. It just used to be the name of the timer. So you had to make it be very specific as to what the timer length was inside the title. Now you can just label them whatever you want and it'll show you the length of time on the right side, which is pretty cool. I like that a lot. All right. And then let's see here. Timer blinking is less distracting. That's cool. Drag and drop audio effects. Now this is one I know I specifically, I think I asked for it twice. So I might have asked for this some time ago when they first came out with the special effects. But now you can go in and let's see here. I don't really have a lot of them right now, but I'm going to start developing it. But in FreeShow under audio, they got a thing called special or sound effects. I call them special effects, but sound effects. And so this is a newsroom. This is a bag being unzipped. If I drag, I can drag this up onto here and it'll actually be on that slide. And so I'm going to get rid of this here. We'll get rid of this timer here. I can do that. And I don't think let's see. Oh, here we go. And so it played that sound. All right. I don't know if you guys could hear it. I didn't hear it too much because I got my volume down on my computer, so it won't be too distracting. But you can drag your audio. You always could drag songs up, but you couldn't drag sound effects. Now the truth is, the reality is these are just songs, are clips from your library that you put into the sound effects, so they could easily have been dragged onto there if you wanted to. But I know for me, I like this idea of the sound effect portion where you can just click on these, and I want to be able to drag them up, and now we've got that flexibility. All right. So that's pretty cool. Let's see here. Brian says, what peripherals do you use? Mics, cams, head clamps, etc. Good question. Good question. Let's see here. Let me see if I can show you guys on my phone. I'll try to turn on the webcam or my camera on my phone, and you get to see my mess too. So don't worry about that. But let's see here. If I go to media and I go to cameras, my iPhone pops up, and so let's select that. If I pull that up, and we'll clear out the slides and we'll clear out the music and I'll pop that up. All right. So for my soundboard, I've got a Zoom L8. Okay. This is a live track L8. It's kind of dusty, but it works perfectly fine. It's a little digital mixer that I like to use. It's got so many inputs on it. I used to use it a lot for live, not live, but for live streams quite a bit. And I would do a lot of remote work. But I actually have this as the outputs. It's a little splitter on the outputs. It's actually going around. It's a little orange cord here that goes to my camera. All right. And so I'm just on one input. I'm only using it for one input, which is horribly, underused, but that's what I'm using it for right now, for one input, and just stays on my desk because it's easier than using like I've got a, what's it called? A Zoom personal recorder. I got one of those that can be an audio interface as well, but I don't even need it as an audio interface. I actually need it for this. I need these outputs to be clean. So I send out XLR outputs to my camera. And so my light, this is just a little lamp light. This is just a little lamp light. But over here on my camera, I've got a Lumix GH5, as you can see there. And this is a game changer for me because I love the camera. I've been having it. I probably had this camera for like 5 years now, maybe 4 years, but I love that camera. I use it. It's not known for having great autofocus. So if I go out of focus, it's literally because of the camera, but I used it mostly because I was a video maker, not a YouTuber. Okay. So this device though, that I connect to it actually is an XLR adapter. And that XLR adapter connects directly to my camera without me having to use a cord, and allows me to adjust the gain levels and all that kind of stuff with it directly. And so I just got it on line input because it's coming from that soundboard. And so you can see it there. Look, it's kind of funny. You can see the duplicate on my screen. And so that's a GH5, and it's just connected, and it's going down with a HDMI. Forgive the shaky signal, but it's going through HDMI into my computer on a little sound card. So it's just a little sound card that it's got a virtual capture card, and then it's connected to my MacBook 16, MacBook Pro 16. And so that's that. And this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking up there at you guys, and you guys can see now the wave of different things. I got OBS open, and then I've got my iPad. My iPad is basically my companion interface. And so this is literally what I use to control my show. So if I wanted to just go to a talking head and not show this, I would just tap that, and it goes to that. Now you just see me holding the camera, right? I can do split shares, what I call it, and it shows up to where you can see me and that, or I can just go to full screen by just clicking full screen, and I got it set to show feedback. So when I click it, it'll turn green, so I know what I'm on, and I don't have to click it again. I can just go to another one that's solid purple. So I can click that and it goes there. All right. It shows me that I'm live. It shows me how long I've been live. When I record my video tutorials, I use my iPad and I use OBS to record everything. And I use this button right here, and it'll just start recording. So I can start recording now. I don't need to because YouTube is recording it. But when I'm making my videos and editing, I'll use my iPad to start the recording on my computer in OBS. So to start recording right here, you'll see it say start recording, that'll turn blue. And I'll use the same microphone as you guys seen in my videos, and the same, soundboard and all that kind of stuff. And it works fine. This is like a Gator, not say old school, but it's a heavy duty Gator, I don't know, microphone stand. It's a desktop stand, so it works out good. It can extend out, but I like it as just where it is. I got it kind of perfectly set up to where I can actually just swing it out the way if I need to, so it can move out the way like that. And it just, when I'm working and doing other stuff or editing videos or something like that, it's not in the way. All right. So hopefully that helps. Let's see here. Mics, cameras, head clamps. Oh, I didn't talk about. Oh, you said head clamps. Oh yeah. So let's see. This is funny. So my iPad is actually connected with Velcro. All right. So what did I do? Oh, okay. I stopped something. Hold on. So my iPad. Oh, I clicked off of that. All right. So my iPad is connected with Velcro to my Magic Arm slash something else. I'm not sure what that would be called. It's just a Ulanzi something, but this is actually a real magic or small rig magic arm that my wife got me. I got it connected to a monopod base that I took apart and took the stem off of it, and just put the mount, was it the ball head, I guess, for the camera mount onto the base. So it's there. And then it's just got this arm to it with Velcro. And then on the back of my iPad, it's funny. It's just got some Velcro that I put on the back of it like that. So it's literally just connected with Velcro. Like, people say putting together with duct tape. I think Velcro is the next level, right? It's the next level of that. So what I do to put it back, let me see. Forgive me, you guys are seeing everything here. Just stick it on there like that, and it just sticks on. All right. And so I use that, and then I got my wife's mouse here. She's using mine, so I started using hers for ergonomic reasons. I usually just use my trackpad, but I was doing some work that was pretty meticulous, so I needed a mouse, so I pulled it out and use that. You guys know I got an ATEM Mini Pro ISO. I use that for tutorials mostly, and then I've used it for live events, like if I was actually working a live event or something like that. Um, that was that. And then I got my notepad here. I'm working on a project here. Can't see that. You can't see those details. But then I got my what's this called? My DaVinci Resolve Speed Editor. I use that to edit all my videos. Okay. So that's a little bit of a walkthrough. Christopher, hey, welcome, welcome, welcome from Norway, my friend. Let me stop this sharing. This is my camera. Somebody asked me about my setup, so I'm just showing a little bit of what I got. Oh, and I got a fan over here. I forgot to show that. This is actually a fog machine, but it has a fan built into it it runs separately on a separate battery. So I just got it hooked up, and it's just running. And I just have it without the fog on. So the fog machine's off, but the fan is on, so it keeps me cool. Because usually when I start with you guys in the mornings, I'm coming from a workout, and I try to cool off, but it's always hard to get cooled off, even after you hop out the shower. So that's that. All right. Hopefully that helps and makes a little sense. Um, But welcome, Christopher. We're going through, just reply to the Reddit post. My goodness, Christopher is the man. All right, so let's look in Reddit. He gets those directly, like they're like he's this like the bat phone to get to Christopher. So he's made a comment here. He says, yes, with the Chord Pro format. So file, import, Chord Pro, select all files. He says you can try the text as well, or the TXT file as well. It might work depending on how the chords are saved. All right. So Neville, you got you said you're gonna be following on Reddit. I'm following with you, my man. And this is what we got. This is automatically replied to. This was, I don't know, 14 minutes ago I sent it. I posted it, and then 2 minutes ago he replied and then gave us some more feedback on it. So what I was saying earlier was the idea that you got to follow. So go to your imports, and then you got that option to go to Chord Pro, like I showed you earlier. And this is going to be the best way. But if you got it in text file format, you can try to import a text file as well. All right. And what Christopher's saying, he's saying you can try the text as well. It might work depending on how the chords are saved. And so my question, Christopher, is would he, if he has a text file, does he need to select text file, or does he need to still select Chord Pro as the import, or will it need to be a text file? So I guess, can you put a comment, Christopher, does it need to be a Chord Pro file or the Chord Pro import with text, or does he need to do text file with his text files? Would be my only question. But thank you for getting back with us so quick on that, Christopher. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Let's see here. We're going through some of the updates that you got on the beta right now. So drag and drop audio effects. I was talking about that one. List points are now colored. So list points. This is something that you guys may or may not have used these. I know when I did that presentation for PowerPoint. Let me see here. If I go to shows, I think it's just called Put PowerPoint. If I do a search for Put PowerPoint, there we go. Put PowerPoint to bed. All right. So when I click on that, these are kind of like bullets. I'm going to duplicate one of these and do a longer one. All right. So I'll duplicate that, and we're going to select it, and we're going to go to edit, and I'm going to add another point. This is number 11. All right. And let's see here. Go back to my shows. And the idea, I believe, is that on there, it says that list points are now colored. So I'm not sure. I might have missed some on here, but I got it set as a list, Christopher. What I thought was that it was going to be colored on this page. So when I click on that, maybe, I'm not sure what would cause that. So help me out on that one, Christopher. I know when I saw the colors before, it was if I right click on this and I do the, let's see here, item action, reveal line by line. I saw them get colored that way. So I see the red coloring there, but I didn't see it just on, oh, maybe that's it. Are you saying that in the past, the list points weren't there? Let's see here. So to respond to what I asked about the Chord Pro, both should work, but slightly different again, depending on how the chords are stored. Okay. And then he says, if you change the text color, it will change. Oh, so if I change the text color, so list points are now colored. Gotcha. They used to not be colored. That makes sense. I never colored those lists before. I thought you were talking about a colored box around them or something. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So that's pretty cool. So let's demonstrate. Look, I did all that and I didn't even do it. So let's right click on this and let's make these. Oh, okay. So this is my first point. So he's saying we can add color. Let's make it be yellow. I like yellow. Okay. And go to the show and you can see those listed as yellow, which is pretty cool. So I go back here and then I go there, arrow over, see that first point, arrow again, I see my other point. Okay. And that's, let me go back. Let me let you guys see what I did. All right. So I just arrowed over and that's the first point. And then I click again and it pops up the second point. And I got it set to shrink to fit. That's why it changed the size. But if I wanted to, I can make it to where it doesn't do that and it'll look, like it's seamless in that sense. All right. Let's see here. Updated languages, export as PDF chord sheet, export as PDF chord sheet. That's crazy. Don't know how to do that, but that sounds like a pretty cool thing. If you're into music, you can export your chord sheets um, as PDFs. Very cool. Bug fixes. If you guys run into any of these issues, this is a big deal. So MIDI input fix, that's a big one. I've seen some comments about that one. Let's see here. Fix some easy worship songs not importing. Media thumbnails not loading temporarily in remote show. So if you're using the connections options in FreeShow, this is a really big deal. All right. Fix space to play not working after clicking a project item. Okay. And then small fixes. All right. And then there was also another beta as well that had some other features and tweaks and things like that. So if you're interested in checking it out, definitely do. I would encourage you to play with the beta at home before you release it in your ministry if you're using it for church or something like that. That would be my suggestion for any beta, for any type of program. Even for me as a video editor, when I do stuff in DaVinci Resolve, I never really get the beta. I'll literally wait till it's official because I'm usually in the middle of a project, right? And so it's going to vary for you. The last thing you want is some surprise when you're doing a ministry meeting and you have something pop up or happen that you didn't expect. And that's why I say make sure to play with it at home, run through a service, run through a project, and see how it feels, see if it flows through with everything you needed to do, and you're good to go. All right. What other questions do you all have? Those are some great questions, by the way, so far. Great questions. We got all of them answered. Look, we're shooting, we're batting 100 right now on every question so far. So I'm excited about that, and that's mostly thanks to you, Christopher. So thanks for that, my man. So my first point I want to talk to those who are at the beginner level is moving from PowerPoint. Moving from PowerPoint. Oh, look, my iPad is in the way again. Hold on. I'm gonna lower it down just a bit on my Velcro because I can see it in the camera and it's distracting me. All right. Um, oh, he said, did I try the quick search with the Command G? I did not. It says you can now search for pretty much anything in the program. Hey, okay. Let me check that out. So Command G, and I can do a quick search. Let's do. Oh yeah, I like that. Okay, let's do Galatians. Okay, so it won't let me search for scriptures, right? It's just searching throughout the program outside of the scriptures because the scripture search is something different, right? And so, wow, whoa, that is crazy. So it's searching through your groups, it's searching through your stages. What? Live orange? If I click this, oh, these are actions. Okay. Okay, let me see. Stream training. I don't want to do any of those actions right now. Let me see. Let's see. I don't have any actions that clear anything. I cleared out I did some cleanup on my account. Let me see. Let me check something out. Let me go to functions real quick. Okay, so I got some variables. I want to check out my okay, so I got one called important message. All right, let's do an search. Command G, important message. Ooh, so I got this here, and that is that what is this? This image. That's an overlay image, right? So if I click that, what will it do? I don't know what I just did. Do I have an important message overlay? I think I do. Yeah, I do. I made that from my oh, it's right here. Here we go. Okay. So important message. It's here. It's blank though. I don't have anything in there. I got you. That is so sweet. Okay. So let me go back. Where was I at? I think I was in this song here. All in his hands. Okay. No, I was actually in my PowerPoint presentation, but that's not the point of this. But that is very cool. So you guys, the Command G in Apple, which I guess is Control G on Windows. Somebody correct me on that if I'm wrong. And then I've hit it again, and it just kept me back where I was. Like it literally picked up where I left off on my search, so I can clear it out and do a new search for anything. That is super sweet. So for His glory, or for your glory, that's what it is. So I can see my songs real quick and easy. I wonder what happened. Can I drag? I can't drag it, but if I click it, it just pops it up. It's there. That's powerful. I love that. Okay. We got a couple points here, a couple comments. Thanks, Christopher, for that. So Command G or Control G is what I'm guessing. Teresa Hooper says, "Good afternoon. The cloud sync video was very helpful. Thank you. I'm having trouble getting additional computers to share the same data as the original computer. Any ideas?" And so, Teresa, when you did the cloud sync, I believe, look, it's been a little while since I made that video, but I believe the only thing you need to do is go back into your settings on your other computers. Where's it at now? Is it under connection? No, no, no. That's for Chum syncing. Where is the cloud? Oh, here we go. Okay, so under files, this import key file, so Google API, when you click on that, you would just put in your Google API key in there and it should automatically sync up. So you need to send that key to your other computers, if I understand that correctly. And like I said, Christopher, if you're still on there, just correct me if I'm wrong on that part, but I believe that's all it says. You have to provide your own free Google API to the program, so the program can automatically upload your files to Google Drive. And don't know how to get one, click here. So this is, but I literally just walked through on that particular video. I just walked through the guide that they put on their website, which is perfect. And then it says you can disable uploading data. So you can turn that on or off to where that computer won't upload data. It's literally just there to sync up from the computer that does upload data. So that's a really powerful feature as well. So Teresa, you need to get your API key and find that, put that file on your other computer. So email it to yourself or whatever it is, and then go to the files under settings and then put that in there. And let me know. And you may have already tried to do that. Let me know if that's what you already tried to do. And if it's giving you some hiccups or some trouble, we'll have to figure that out. Look, we may end up having to put another Reddit ticket in real quick, but we'll see. We'll see. We got another point here, a comment from Chris Pashin. I can't pronounce it, so forgive me. So he says, "Do you have recommendation for hardware for a new Windows 11 PC? We're looking to upgrade, specifically focused on running FreeShow with OBS live stream. Hardware specs, that is processor, RAM, video card." Man, Chris, I wish I could help you with that. So the reality is I haven't used a Windows computer in probably almost 20 years now, in terms of having my own. And so back then there was a whole different situation. What I would say though is I would get the most powerful computer that you can afford, in your budget, right? Because Windows computers, you can pretty much spec them out however you want to, right? As opposed to Apple computers where you got to just buy what's available. Let me come back here to Q&A. But for a Windows computer, you can get the graphics processor card that you need. You can get the RAM that you need and all that stuff kind of uh, a la carte, I guess you could say. And so I guess my issue is I don't know how to compare Windows to Mac these days. With the M1 chip, I'm used to that one. And so it's a little bit different because it's everything is on board. But it, like this computer right now, I think it's got 16 gigs of RAM. It's got a dedicated graphics card for that Apple's included in the M1 chip. So it works out fine for what I do without a problem for live streaming, recording, and everything on OBS and um, free show and everything all at the same time, right? So I've never run into an issue, but I know that this is unique from a Windows computer in the sense that your Windows computer, you got to have the fans and all that kind of stuff that you got to make sure they can support your processor and all that. So I wish I could help you out. I would just say get the most powerful computer you can. So when we talk about, let's look at the processor, get the most powerful processor that you can support or afford with the Windows 11, which I'm not sure what it is. And then the RAM, I would get no less than 16. And I don't know what the minimum is on a Windows computer. I would go towards 32 or whatever it is that you need, 64 or something like that. But from my experience, FreeShow has gotten a lot more efficient. That's what I've experienced. It's just in the last 7 months, it's become so much more efficient because on this same computer I had back in December, this is the same computer. It used to lag on me when I would try to run a stage display and I would try to run my primary and I would try to run my live streaming. But since then, there's been so many updates to make it much more efficient. And so I'm doing 16 gigs of RAM and it's not even blinking. My computer's not blinking at that while I'm running OBS to live stream or record or do both at the same time. And I'm trying to think about, and that's all using NDI. NDI is on off the time, almost all the time on my computer here. So I've got right now, NDI is on my primary and on my live stream computer, or live stream output, I'm sorry. And my live stream, let me see, go back out. My live stream, I believe I got it set to a transparent and invisible window, right? So the only thing, and I don't even know if my primary is actually going to a real window. Let me see. Yeah, I had it going to a window. I don't even have that monitor connected. It was actually a test monitor I was using, but this is my primary that I'm using right now. And then I got my laptop as number one down there. All right. So yes, those are my thoughts. Probably not the most helpful, unfortunately, but yeah, I just don't know enough about Windows computers, unfortunately. My recommendation would be to get a Mac Mini Pro or a Mac Studio, any M level, right? M1, M2, M3, whatever it is. But I would say M1, Mac Studio, or a Mac Mini Pro, which is only an M4 format, and you can get the baseline of any of those, and you'll be good. Okay, they're just a different process, as you know. Like I said, and I understand too, whole different software, whole different system. So I'm not saying you should get a Mac computer. I'm just saying, if when I do consult with churches and ministries, one of the things I encourage them to do is to get those devices, just because they have so much longevity built into them, different than what I've experienced with Windows. Not because Windows isn't good, it's just that I'm not smart enough to manage a Windows computer. That's been the case from day one. I couldn't keep up with it, and it became burdensome to try to do all the stuff. Back in the day, it was a lot more than you probably have to do now. But for me, I want a computer and I believe it's important for me and my clients that I work with to have something that is not going to cause any potential issue, because most of the folks I work with are not IT professionals, right? There are some people at some churches that I work with, they do have a guy that used to work in IT. So he does, I'm like, hey, you do the network setup and all that stuff, and I'll help you get the programs running, right? So it really is going to depend on your expertise. But for free show, I don't think there's going to be a lot of heavy load that you're going to need to rely on to say, okay, make sure it can do that. I would find whatever the heaviest load program you plan to run. If it is free show, then I would say anywhere from, for a Windows computer, maybe 24 to 32 gigs of RAM, and any size hard drive is fine. It's going to be really based upon your needs. And then the processor, I would get the best processor you can afford, whatever that would be, because you can kind of switch those out individually. All right. Let's see here. Let's see here. So Teresa said she's imported the keys and no luck. And then Chris is saying, Teresa, make sure you have the automatic sync on startup and close. That's a big deal, right? So if you go back into our, let's see here. If I go to files, that's here. Save location. That's auto backup, auto save. That's important for me. Let's see here. Where's the auto sync at? Because I remember, I guess if you have the key, does it pop up and give you that option there? Because I don't think it's up here anywhere for your files and all that kind of stuff. But absolutely, make sure it's on set to automatically do that, because otherwise you're not going to have anything to do anything with, right? There's not anything to change or update. Um, let's see here. Oh, like Passion. Perfect. Thanks, Chris. Chris Passion. That's a really cool name, by the way. Uh, Brian says, please stress the need for robust internet, maybe even a backup. Yes. So for me, I agree with you, Brian, on that. Is that one of the most important things when it comes to live streaming, especially, is having a reliable hardwired internet connection that does focus on the upload speed more than the download speed. And I'm saying that from a very basic level, but it's something that's so important that it doesn't, I can't, it doesn't, we can't have that conversation without mentioning that. Is that a lot of times internet providers, for business class, it's usually the other way around, but for general purpose, most people rely on the download speed to be the most important facet, because we're downloading content from the internet. We're always looking at YouTube, or we're always looking at different things online and watching movies or whatever it is, right? Whereas when you're doing a live stream, you need to focus on understanding what is your upload speed. And I can literally count on one hand how many churches have been able to tell me out the gate. Because that's one of my first questions is, what's your internet upload speed? And most of them don't know. They'll focus on the download because that's what their provider focuses on. But your upload is going to be much more important, especially as you have more and more computers connected to the network. That's going to be a big deal. So having a good internet connection when you're doing live streaming is important. If you're using NDI, it's important. So I would say it's going to be important to use FreeShow with a good, strong network connection. Okay. All the computers hardwired that you're going to be talking to. If you're going to have one computer run OBS, another one run FreeShow, and they're talking through NDI, then I would say make sure you got a good, strong internet or network connection, period. Let me put it that way. Okay. Um, so he says, I suggested Mac or Linux, but that was not approved. Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that. Man, I hate that happens, but it literally, Apple computers have really taken a step up in terms of that powerful processing with simplicity. Okay, I'm not saying that they're more powerful. I don't. You can look at all the videos and look at the benchmarks and all this stuff. I've looked at those from time to time, and especially when I'm in the market looking for a computer, I'll always look at all the benchmarks and see all that. But half the stuff they do, I don't do. The main thing I would look for is the video editing specs. What kind of graphic processor does it have? Was important to me. Um, so let's see here. Chris says, yes, it's right on the files page if you have the key in it. That's what I thought, because I used to have it in it and I took it out because I didn't use it. But yeah, so when you have that, you will turn on auto sync. All right. So hopefully that answers some of those questions. Great questions, you guys. This is so fun. I love this part of this is my world right here. So getting to interact and really get to share and hear other people's feedback. So thank you guys for giving some feedback and some support to that. And that part, what Chris said, it literally wasn't in front of me, so I really wasn't even thinking about the auto sync. But make sure that's on for sure. And Teresa might be thinking I did make sure that was the case, but make sure that's the case, and then also determine which one you're trying to make sure you're getting your data uploaded from. Right. So this one, this is a newer feature because this was not the case. I don't think when I had the cloud key set up. I think that might have been 5 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago when I just tested it out to see how it worked. I just don't need it because I don't use more than one computer. But the disabling the uploading of data, that's a pretty cool feature to make sure of. So you can literally make sure that all your information is literally coming one way, right? So it's all coming from one computer and then it's getting disseminated to other computers, which is ideal. Okay. Um, let's talk more. So moving from PowerPoint, this is a big deal. When people And I say moving from PowerPoint, I'm gonna say moving from any presentation program that is not designed for ministry. Okay, that's what PowerPoint represents to me. It's a program that's not designed for ministry work. So, like Keynote for the Apple side, it's the same idea. Um, I remember having a live meeting with a ministry a couple weeks back in Louisiana, and we were talking about how to use FreeShow. And the idea wasn't just for ministry; it was just in general. Like some of them wanted to use it for business and for their work or as entrepreneurs or whatever it was. And so we had this conversation. It was a really cool dialogue. And I'm asking you guys the same question: Is there's so much that FreeShow can do that PowerPoint does not. And it's something that we don't think about it if you only use PowerPoint. For example, one of my main points was being able to edit on the fly, right? Being able to make a change real time, right? Behind the scenes while the show is still going and there's no hiccup, no change in the flow for the audience to see anything different than what they're supposed to see. And you can make all the changes you need to. That's a big deal, right? PowerPoint, you have to prepare really well. And it doesn't mean with FreeShow you shouldn't. It just means if you don't get everything properly input or you don't get everything spelled correct on the first go around or the second proof or whatever it is, something slips through those cracks, you still can have ability to make that change and not be locked into having your slides locked on the screen. And the only way you can get it fixed is to turn the whole presentation off, right? Same way with Keynote or any other presentation program like that, like Google Slides, right? Your changes are very visible if you're going to make changes. So this is a mind shift that you have to understand that you can make changes real time. And then the other part of it is you don't have to premeditate every verse, right? So if you're using this in a ministry setting, you're more than likely trying to show scriptures. You got to get those scriptures ahead of time from the speaker, the teacher, the pastor, whoever it is, and input those into a slideshow. Make sure they're presented properly, and make sure they're the right version they want, and all this kind of stuff. And that's important. And it's not a bad production standpoint process. However, if there's something that comes up on the fly, um, I watch ministries online all the time, and one of the things that I see more often than not is they'll say, "Hey, media team, I want to talk about this verse. I know I didn't give it to you, right?" So even the biggest ministries that we can watch or we see online that have a great production value, and they're doing this live stream thing, and they're doing it with multiple cameras, and they got jibs and all this kind of stuff, all these moving cameras and high quality this and lighting and all that kind of stuff, special effects, and they do not have all the verses in the media team, right? They're probably using something like PowerPoint or not PowerPoint, Pro Presenter, right? That's what FreeShow is to me. FreeShow is um, it's definitely more akin to Pro Presenter than any other program I believe that's out on the market, and it can rival it depending on what you need. Okay, and so to me, that's a big mind shift that we got to understand is you don't have to have everything prepared. You don't have to try to customize slides and all this kind of stuff. You literally just need the text and then just go to a template. That to me is a big game changer. You literally say, I'm gonna just have all my templates preset to change it as need be in each show can be shown with different templates, right? With a PowerPoint, you typically are going to have the same theme throughout the entirety of it, and unless you manually make that change and do this and do that. Whereas a free show, you're going to have a compilation of a bunch of different shows, right? It's not just one big show. It's a compilation of a number of different shows that have their own look and feel, based on who gave you the content and or how you want to present the content, right? And so um, that's a big mind shift. And so as you move from PowerPoint, I know it's hard for um, what they say, people call it a paradigm shift. You hear that a lot. Um, I would just call it the need to change is often not realized until it's needed, right? And so I'm one that I actually lean into it. I like to look for change as opposed to needing it. I'll look for it and say, hey, I'm going to need this change later on. So I'll try to not limit myself, but lean into the need for it. I'll make myself feel like I need it now because I know I'm going to need it in the future. All right. And as a media team leader, that's important because you've got to have some insight. You got to have some foresight to say, hey, we're going to need to make this change because we know where we want to go, right? You might be investing in a new building. I know I was talking with a gentleman whose ministry, they're looking to get a new building. And right now they're just meeting online, which is great. I would not go into that new building with PowerPoint. That's what my advice was, is if you're going to get a new building, start using FreeShow now on your Zoom meetings, right? Start using it just to get accustomed to how it works. Have your team, have a group of young people learn the program. And it is robust. It is very powerful to do what you need to do. Okay. The other cool thing about FreeShow that I like is that with PowerPoint, once you make your slide, it's set. You can't make any changes to it. That's one thing we know. But you can't even do a pop-up. Like you can't make a lower third come up when you want to and make it go away when you want to. But with free show, it's literally like having it's like producing a show. It's like a production software more so than a presentation software to me is how I look at it at times. Especially when I'm thinking for creative ways to use it. I use it and I look at it as a production software. So for this particular live stream right now, that's how I use it. I love watching sports channels and sports broadcasters and things like that. And I'm actually working on a project, an idea right now to figure out how to make it do some of the things I like to see on those live broadcasts. But that's how I approach free show. It has that capacity to be able to produce a live show real time. So I've got my title up there. I didn't type that title in. It was already there and I didn't change the date. It automatically changes for me. It's dynamic, right? So it says 7/25 because that's today's date. I just set that as a dynamic value and it automatically is there all the time now, right? All I do is go in and change my variables in here. I just type in my beginner topic, my intermediate topic, and my advanced topic right there. And then automatically when I go to I showed you guys my iPad, those who were on earlier, and it's just buttons. I got one button that says move from PowerPoint. Another one says action simplified and so forth and so on. I tap that and it automatically changes. All right. So you can use it as a production software. If you approach it that way, it'll literally change the value that you find with the software. All right. Let's see here. We got some comments. Let's see here. Chris Passion says the biggest feature for us moving from PowerPoint is the layouts. Yep, I agree. So we can have one version of a song for kids worship and a different version for the main worship and easily switch between the two. That is a huge game changer. I would completely agree with you. And it's organized. That's a big part of it to me too, is that it actually organizes everything into its own library, right? So it's like all of your shows, they're here. They're not on, I mean, they're on the computer technically, but they're in the program easily sorted and you can make categories for them and all that stuff. You don't get that with PowerPoint. Like PowerPoint shows you, I think, look, I haven't used it in a while, but I've used Keynote. It'll show you most recents, but you can save those anywhere on your computer on a separate hard drive or something like that, where this creates a library for you. And then you can categorize your own stuff, right? So you can make your own categories for different meetings, different groups. And it's really the customization of it. That's a part of that production piece that it sets it apart to where it literally will, what's the word? It will adjust to your needs as long as you know what you need. Okay. And even if it's not even what you need, it might just be something you desire. If you know what you want, you can figure out a way to make it work in free show. Right. So I saw a comment on Reddit, right? So there's people doing all kind of stuff. I'm not a data, what's the word? Like Christopher, he's a developer, right? So there's a lot of folks that have that developer mind. I've got, I was dare to say I would have somewhat of an engineering mind, maybe, but I have more of a training mindset when I approach free show. But these guys are saying, hey, how can I make it to when I show a scripture, it doesn't show a colon in between, it shows a comma. And there's an answer for that. Like there's a way to do that. You literally can go into the code and change something, and it'll automatically make it to where whenever you show a scripture, it doesn't put the the colon between the numbers. It doesn't say chapter 1 colon 2 for verse 2. It says 1 comma 2 from now on that person's free show version, because that's what they wanted to set it up to do. You can't do that in PowerPoint, right? You can't make those kind of changes. These are like, it's unbelievable, unreal. All right. Let's see here. Brian says, can you show how to import program content from Google Drive? Tell me more, Brian. Program content. What kind of program? Can you show how to import program content? Are you talking about like projects with the, let's see, with the Google API key? Let me know if that's what you're talking about. Okay. Now, what I will say is I can't do that if that's what you're talking about, only because I just don't have it set up. I don't have that all opened up and set up. But what it would be is that option that Chris brought up. I believe he was talking about. It'll be an option that says auto sync, and I believe it's on startup and on close. I believe. Let me see. Uh, Automatic sync on start. Yeah, on startup and close is what they have. And so when you do that, whatever changes you make, you don't have to do like a program um, import if you have both the same key on both computers, as long as they're connected to the internet and you got it set to where it will sync up when you start it up and it'll sync up when you close it. It'll automatically have the same library of everything. The projects will be in sync and everything will be exactly how the computer that you've got set to upload data, whatever's on that computer is going to go out to all the other computers or the other computer automatically if they're set up to sync up. Okay, with that key in there. Really cool process. And I think the biggest benefit for that process, I was working with a ministry, I had a meeting with them Tuesday, and they were talking about that. They were doing some remodeling for their media booth, and they were talking about getting network storage, right? And one of the reasons was one of the cool reasons, and this is something you all probably run into a lot more. I'm not actively involved in a local ministry as much as I am online, right? So the ministry I'm with, they meet online as well, and so um, but he was talking about wanting to make and edit content and shows for events. Like, for example, there's a women's event coming up at their ministry, and he doesn't necessarily want to be there. He just wants to create the show and have it automatically sync up with what's on from what he designed on his computer to make it sync up with the computer at the church, right? And they're going to use a network storage for that. However, if it's just related to free show, they could easily just use this cloud sync for that. But they also want to do it for other files as well, because they're going to be doing some photography and video stuff and all that kind of stuff. And he wants to be able to access that from the church computer and send stuff to the church computer as needed. Okay. So this is kind of like having that type of deal, like a network attached storage, but it's really just free show being able to talk to itself, right? Wherever it is on different computers, on different networks. Okay. Or the same network, I guess, too. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Brian, forgive me if like I said, I can't do it just because I don't have it active right now. But as long as auto sync is on, it'll automatically import the information if that's what you're talking about. And that's the only thing I can think of. But tell me if I'm wrong on what I'm assuming for that. Just tell me if I'm wrong. All right. Now, hopefully that makes sense about the move from PowerPoint or from any presentation. Like I said, it's not to pick on PowerPoint, Keynote, whatever you got. Okay. Let's talk about an intermediate discussion topic. This has to do with actions. All right. And so when I think about using FreeShow, this is a big shift as well. When I talk about it being a production software, different than PowerPoint. So we're progressing, right? Every time I do a FreeShow Friday, it's always a consistent theme, a progression that hopefully makes sense for beginner users. It also makes sense for those who are at the intermediate level and even advanced as well, or at least as advanced as I am, right? I can only go as far as I know, and I'm not going to say I'm the most advanced user. I definitely would say I'm a solid intermediate for sure, and tipping the scale towards advanced, but I just don't know how everybody's using it and where they're coming from, because you all have used programs I've never used before, right? So like somebody said that they use the emergency alerts in another program, but it was called alerts. I called it emergency messages, right? And so you're going to have some understanding just in maybe a different language, different dialogue than what I would maybe have with you. But you have some skills coming into it and experiences that I don't have. And so you bring those to the table and say, how do I do this in free show? And I can maybe be the interpreter, right? I just may not use the same language, right? Let's see here. Chris says, how do you get the bar at the bottom of the slide to be purple, pink with white text? Ours are black with purple or pink text. Good question. So what he's talking about is up under my slides here, I've got, they said verse 3, bridge 4, and all that kind of stuff, right? And this is courtesy of somebody on Free Show Friday walking me. They showed me this. They talked about it actually. So if you go in, I'm trying to think about how you get to it now. So if we go to, let's see if it's under, uh, let's go to files. No, hold on. It's not in a theme. I'm pretty sure it's in general. Okay, so in general, you're going to go to manage groups. And actually, too, so high contrast group colors, I turned that on. That's part of it, I believe. Check and make sure yours is not. If you have that on already, that's not all of it, but that, I believe that's part of it, Chris, is that I turned that on under my general settings, and then under manage groups, I believe I did something here. Let me see if I did anything. Auto assign group numbers. That might have been all it is. Just turn on the high contrast. But you can change the colors of them here. So you can say, okay, I want the break to not be that reddish pinky color. I can make it be whatever color I want. All right. And then it'll do that for you. So if I do, let me go back out. Let's go to here and I turn this off. All right. I'm going to go back to my show. Notice how it goes gray with the purple. So that's what it was. It's just the high contrast option that I turned on. So if you go back to the settings, this is what yours looks like now. When you turn on the high contrast group colors, boom, I believe everything gets, it seems like it gets bigger, but I must say that the text gets bolder. With that white text, I believe it makes it a little bit bolder. And if it's not, it's perceived to be a little bit bolder. Yeah, so it was the high contrast. Absolutely. All right. So actions being simplified. So when you're using PowerPoint, things like that, you literally, I used to try to make, I would go out of my way to try to do, I've been doing this for my whole life. I was a trainer in corporate America and I would help people do things, but I also was I worked in public affairs and was a presentation person and so forth. And so I was used to editing PowerPoints and doing things and making them do things that most people didn't know how to do. But there's nothing like actions in PowerPoint. Okay. So if you go to your functions and you go to the first option on the left, it's called actions. All right. And I've got a few of them here, but there's not a way in PowerPoint you can just make it do something like that. Just automatically start shooting out fireworks, right? At the push of a button. You have to build that into your show. I didn't have that built into my show, but because I've made an action called fireworks and I've got it on Companion, so you guys didn't see me click on my computer. I clicked on my tablet because that's the next level. We're going to talk about some other things. That's not today, but that's next level using another program. But I can click on that from here and it pops up and does that same thing. It pops up those fireworks. That's a simple action, right? If you go to new action now, this is a part of that beta update, I believe, that they've simplified this process in terms of the way it looks. It's not a whole list of a whole slew of different things. It's really gotten cleaned up quite a bit. And it says common only, but you can turn that off and you'll see all these other ones that are not so common. So it's a whole list of a bunch of other stuff, right? So if I go, let's look at, for example, let's just look at the projects. We got open, next, previous, and open project item at index. If I turn that on, there's not even a project option, okay? So if I go to show, I don't even know if there's a show option. Oh, there's a show. The only option for show for common is just start show. If I turn it back off, you'll see there's a open show with a name. In terms of you pick the name, start a show. You can set the template on an active show, which is pretty cool. Transpose up and down in terms of moving the show up and down. And then you got the slides. If I hit common, which is a really cool feature, this is in the beta, I believe, right? Let's see. Let's see. Brian's got a comment. He says, Brian Nelson says, the NIV isn't included in Free Show. I have the one from your website. Thanks very much. However, it isn't the most recent version of NIV. That I'm sure of. It says, do you have anyone here? Do you or anyone here know of a location that I can get this? I really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, Brian. The truth is, I do not know if that is anywhere available anywhere anymore. Like I said, I actually downloaded all of those Bible versions. I'm pretty sure I downloaded all those almost 10 years ago, maybe a little bit less, but I think I've had those for that long. And that's the reason why I make them available on my site for free, because I got them that long ago for free and they were on the internet. I didn't go through great lengths, but I went through some lengths to me that if I wasn't as savvy or comfortable doing it, I wouldn't want my mother to find those files or whatever, because I think she would have probably got a virus on her computer trying to find them, because there was so many other things you had to go through in terms of just a little bit extra, right? And so most of the folks that may follow on this channel, you all are probably pretty savvy, but my goal is to keep everything simple as possible, right? And so I can tell you for sure that I don't have the latest version of any of those Bibles that are there. The best bet you're going to have is that if Free Show gets some type of agreement with the NIV publishers where they can put it in the API Bible list, that's when it'll probably be the most up to date, because they'll be able to get it directly from the publishers of the NIV Bible. That's a good question, though. Sorry that it's not the most up to date, but it's real. Look, it's a real Bible, and like I said, I'm more of an old school kind of person, so I'm like, if I had a paper Bible, NIV Bible, which I think I mostly have now, my oldest Bibles are probably like NASB, ESV, and then I think I've got an NLT Bible that are paper, right? And then most of the time I'm actually using the app, right? So the app always has the most up to date version. So that's the nuance of this generation and this age, is that we're mostly using the latest version. Whereas most people, when you buy a Bible, you're not buying a new one every time a new one comes out. You got yours, you got your notes in there, whatever, your highlights and all that kind of stuff. So we got to act like this is that, unfortunately, even though everybody else does have the latest and greatest, which is cool. All right. So Chris is saying, which Free Show version am I using? I'm actually using the 148 beta 2. So 148 beta 2 is the one I'm actually using right now. And the cool thing is you can tell which one you're using. I'm going to pull it up. If I go to view, let's say toggle focus mode, hit it again, toggle focus mode, it'll bring you out. So you can see here 148 beta 2. Okay. Now, as I say always, when it comes to the beta, play with it on your own at home, or on your, you can say on your church computer, that's fine, because you can always revert back, but do it well in advance, right? And I would still use the official version before you use a beta on a Sunday or Saturday, whenever you have your meetings, midweek meetings or whatever it is. I would still revert back to the main version that's actually a proven solid one, and then see how the beta works with your real programs, your real services, your real projects and all that stuff. And if it works fine, then definitely update to it. Because the thing about the betas, to me, they're always pretty solid, but there's sometimes some things that might slip through the cracks, and that's fewer and far between now than it used to be, a few months back. There was Free Show, to me, it was going through a major shift, and it's still shifting. The way Christopher likes to look at it, he's like, it's just constantly progressing. It's always getting better at a pretty even mark, right? It's not a huge update like how Windows might do something, or Apple might do something, or any other developer. Christopher's mindset is every update is progressively getting better and better and better. And so that's how it works. Every update is progressively, something is getting better that's really useful, as much as the last update was. And that's not easy for me to understand as frequently as the updates come out, but that's how they work. That's how Free Show is working. And it's unbelievable. And it keeps it pretty steady. Okay. So betas are safe most of the time now, but I still recommend that you test it out well before, right? At least a week or two before you actually implement it in a live service. All right. So actions, going back to actions real quick. So if I go back to my actions under functions, a lot of people don't go into their functions, but go into those functions and go to the actions and go into the new actions. When we talk about actions, there's the main thing that when I first started using Free Show as a beginner, my first thought was, okay, I make this list of things down here and I can click on them when I need to. And that's, as a beginner, that was as far as my mind went. You all, if you're at that level, you might be thinking the same thing. I can make this action. I got to go there and click it. Okay, that's nice. However, that's not all. Okay, that's the tip of the iceberg. You can actually activate them. This is one, activate by key press. That one made sense to me. So I can actually click in here. So I can call this one, I'm gonna call it test training. And I can click on this. It says press any letter to activate. So I'm gonna hit the letter K. And so now whatever I put as my action that I choose is gonna happen because I pressed the letter K. So I'm gonna say start playlist. All right. I can go down here and hit this little dash. That dash just means pick something. All right. I'm gonna go down. I got a Christmas album. I got a live stream intro and some other stuff. New intro songs. I'm gonna do live stream intro, and I'm gonna hit close to it's all done, right? And it's called test training. All right. If I scroll down in my list of actions and I get to the bottom, you'll see test training. It's got a K next to it. I used to think that was the best and only way to really do this. So I'm gonna turn down my my volume real quick so you guys can see though. But when I hit the letter K, and I'm gonna go back into FreeShow. Actually, I clicked in OBS. If I hit K, there it goes. It starts to play, and you all probably can hear it a little bit. I'm gonna stop it now, but I can hit the letter K and it starts that action. Okay, that's a pretty cool deal, pretty cool feature. But if I right click on this same action and I go to edit, okay, I'm gonna close out the K thing, right? That's fine. That's a very good beginner level option as well. But this one, custom activation, says set a custom activation. And it says you can set it to activate, to start that playlist on startup of the program, on the save of the program, right? On a slide deck, when a video is starting, when an audio is starting, when a timer is ending, okay? When scripture is started, when a slide is cleared, when the background is cleared, when a show is created, or activate when a show is opened, um, activate when audio playlist has ended, or activate by MIDI signal. So all of these, right, can be a way that you can make that action start. And all you got to do is create the action and then say, okay, I want that to start when this timer ends, right? So I can click on that. And then it says, okay, activate when timer is ending. Do you want it to be any timer, or do you want it to be your countdown timer, right? And so this is why I say earlier about the difference between PowerPoint and FreeShow. I can literally set this up like a production studio for a live TV show to say, hey, once we get done with our timer, our countdown timer, we're going to go straight into the intro music, right? That's my producer snap, right? So I can say, okay, when the 10-minute countdown timer is done, we're going to automatically start playing, and nobody has to click anything. It's set to automatically activate with that process there. And it's going to start this playlist, and I don't have to think about it because I thought about it ahead of time. So it's like PowerPoint in the fact that you can preset and prepare things, but it takes it to the next level to say you can prepare things that it's unbelievable, the actions you can create, and then the way you can activate them. That to me is gold when it comes to a live environment, right? When you're dealing with a ministry environment, a live event environment, a school environment, a government environment, where podcasting or sports events, that is crazy, right? So you might say, you know what, I want to do fireworks and I want to activate the fireworks every time. I don't even know when I hit clear. I don't know. I mean, you can do crazy stuff, right? So that to me is really cool, right? So I'm gonna close it out. I don't want that to happen for me for this situation, but I want you to understand that actions are a really simple thing. So that's one way you can actually make it to where it just activates automatically. Okay. Let's see. I got a question here, or a comment. Let's see here. Broken but believing says, "Hello, I'm sorry I'm late. I have a question. If I'm in free show, let me switch to Q&A real quick. If I'm in free show, can I use HDMI splitter for two screens, one for stage and the other for the audience? I'm trying, but it detects just one screen." That's a very good question. I feel like this is a radio show. I was about to say that's a very good question, Broken but believing. Here's the issue. Um, let's see something here. I don't have any splitters up here. I'm trying to think about. You've got a splitter though, so that's fine. So don't worry about that. You know what a splitter looks like. Here's what I'll tell you. When you're sending a signal, and let me close this out the way. All right. When you're sending a signal out of your computer, and we'll do this. When you're sending a signal out of your computer, let's activate that. Um, through HDMI. Okay. One signal coming out of the computer through that HDMI cable, and you put it to an actual splitter. All it's going to do is duplicate what's coming out of the computer for that HDMI cord. It is not going to make it be two separate signals. It's going to do exactly what you've been experiencing, where it's going to just send that same signal just to two different places. That's all a splitter is designed to do, is just split it out and send it to two separate places, the same exact thing though. All right. Now, what I will say is this. There's a device, and this is something I've been recommending now for pretty much the last 6 or 7 months. When I found out about it, I found out about it from Max Tech or something like that. But there's a device called, I don't know what this is called, REI splitter, Orion splitter. So this is what it's called. It's called a split extend USB 3.0 to quad HDMI display adapter. And this is cool because it has 4 HDMI ports on it, and it focused back on my face. But this, since it's a split extend USB, it doesn't connect to HDMI on my computer. It actually connects through a USB, which is important. So I can connect this to my computer through USB-C or it has an adapter for a regular USB. All right. I know it's a little blurry because it's focused on my face, so forgive me. But this device is about $100. It was like $99 on Amazon, at least last time I got it. When I got mine, which was maybe less than a month ago. All right. And so it allows you to plug this up to your computer USB. So as long as your computer has USB, you literally can have 4 separate outputs on your computer, and FreeShow and your computer will see them as separate screens like you see everywhere else, right? So let me see if I can do settings, system settings. So when I go to my system settings and I go to displays, right now I only have, let's see, let's do split share. Right now I've only got these two. I got my desktop and then I've got my monitor that's up top here. All right. I've got this device. I'm going to plug it in and let's see what happens here. It'll show you. All right. I've got that plugged in and I need another monitor. So I'm getting my other monitor and then I need an HDMI cord. I think I got one here. Hold on. All right. So I'm going to take this HDMI cord. I'm going to plug it into that device. It's already connected through USB, but it also needs power. So I got to actually connect it to my computer and I got to plug it up to a USB, like you're charging, like a phone charger, right? So now it's plugged up and let's see here. I'm moving my files out the way so you guys can see what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to show you what comes up. This is what comes up. It's got a driver with it. It says, hey, you did something. You got this instant view driver that's running. But I'm gonna go to FreeShow real quick. Let's do media, cameras, and let you guys see that. All right. Now, no, I can't go out. Okay, yeah. So we'll do this. So right now that device is right here on my desk, and I've got it plugged up. No HDMI plug cords to it yet, but on the back, I had to plug up the USB to plug it up to charge it, and then I got it plugged into my computer right here on this last port. Okay, so it's plugged into my computer, and it's also plugged into power, so it needs power to work. Okay, that's the USB. It's just going to like a little power brick or something like that back here. I don't know. It's plugged into a little power station. Okay, and so that's there. It's ready to go, but now I got to actually plug in the HDMI, which I'm gonna try to do this with one hand. I can pick any of these ports I want to, but let's do this one here. Sorry, hold on. All right. So I got it plugged up through HDMI. Now the thing is, I need a screen. So I got this little monitor. I got this little handheld monitor I'm gonna use here. It's battery powered. So I'm gonna turn it on. Hold on. All right. Let's see if it powers up. And this is what I use for testing, but I also use it for my cameras too. Like it's a monitor for on cameras. And I think the battery, okay, there we go. I thought the battery was dead. There we go. So we got power here. So now let's see what happens when I plug that device in. Let me pull this. Oh, let's pull this out the way. Hold on. All right. Let's pull this out the way. My HDMI cord is pretty long. All right. And so now I got an HDMI cord here. And what we're going to do is, oh, I think it froze up on me. Hold on. Let's go back to here. And let's come back. I don't think you guys can see it still. Hold on. I'm going to restart. All right, there we go. All right. So I've got this HDMI cable here. I've got it to where I'm about to plug it into this on the input side. So in is on the top. So I'm gonna select that. Hold on. All right. So now my whole screen just went black up there because it's trying to connect and saying, okay, what are we gonna do with this? And now this device, this monitor is now just another computer monitor on my computer. So earlier you guys saw I only had 2 computer monitors, okay? Let's look and see how many I got now. And I don't even need this on anymore. So let's turn that off. All right. Okay. So we go back to my screen. Now I've got 3 monitors set up. All right. And that one's called the M Star demo. So I can go to my arrange, and the M-Star demo is on the right side now. Okay. And what that means is I've got my same two monitors, my laptop here, and I've got my monitor that was at the top of that there that I've always had on. But then I just plugged up this additional one that now I can send signal to FreeShow or from FreeShow directly to that monitor, completely separate. Um, I don't have a separate monitor, but I can do that 4 times total, right? So it's not just that one, but if I had other TV screens, in your case, you got other TVs, you need a long enough HDMI cable, obviously, but I can send that signal. So now when I go to Free Show, I'm gonna do this. What I like to do with it is come here and I'll go to outputs and I'm gonna do stage. That's one that we typically would like to send the signal to. I'm gonna select this. Oh, right now I got it set to where it's an invisible window. I'm gonna turn it off of invisible because I didn't have anything to plug it up to, but now I do. So it's a real window. So I select that and it says, oh, you want me to be on 3, which is my default that I had it on anyway. So yes, I do. And I'll close it out and I'm gonna turn on the stage. And here's my stage display. It's not showing much, but if I were to send this signal out, right, by going to present, let me turn on my primary real quick. I'm gonna turn my primary to be an invisible window first, so it won't go anywhere. And then I got my live training already as an invisible window, so they're not gonna go anywhere. But when I send this out, let's see what happens here. I'm gonna show you guys my, I didn't talk to you guys about my light. I got a big old light up here that's kind of not in the way, but it's there. All right, so let's turn this back on. All right. So when I go to Free Show and turn on, the stage display is now on this monitor. Okay. There it is there. And that is how you would do it. You would need to get a splitter, a stage splitter, whatever it is, to not stage, but a splitter extender. That's what it's called. It's not a splitter, it's a split extend. That's the big deal. Um, I might have an affiliate link for this somewhere. I'll see if I do, I'll put it in the comments, but you can definitely check it out. And it's something that's really helpful for ministries, especially when you have limitations on your computer, which most of us do, right? Your computer's only going to be able to do so much. And so this allows that computer to do a far greater deal of connections, specifically for presentation programs like this, which I love. All right. Um, Hopefully that makes sense. I'm just checking the comments to make sure I didn't miss anything. So yeah, let me know, broken but believing. Let me know if that answers your question. I'm just checking to make sure. Yeah, I'm up to date on my doc. Okay, so that's that. Um, Very good question, by the way, because that's you're not alone in that. A lot of people run into that same issue because they think if they get a splitter, it'll do what you want it to do, which is send a signal out to multiple devices differently, right? Multiple screens, different places. But it's not a splitter is not designed to do that. All right, unfortunately. All right. It's just not designed for that. I'm gonna turn this off and we should be good. All right. Um, oh, actions. Going back to actions real quick. All right. So when we talk about actions, the other part of it is you can make them do things by dragging them onto other things, right? So I got some verses here. I'm gonna go to this one here. So we go to this song here. I can make an action that says when I get to this slide here, I want it to do something different. What different thing do I want it to do? I don't know. It'd be totally up to you. But maybe at that point, maybe the praise team is going to do something special or funky or fun or whatever it is. You can make it do. Let's go back to our test action. Let me actually go back. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna right click on this to edit. Instead of it doing a playlist thing, you say, you know what? I wanted to. I'm gonna go to my uncommon. I'm gonna open up the comment only and turn it off. And let's go to I want to maybe you want to emit something, right? You can actually send a signal from FreeShow, and you can literally send out a MIDI signal to your lighting program, your lighting system, if you have one. Say, I want to change the lights at that part of the song. So when we get to that slide, I want to send out a signal from here. You would set that up as a signal. You would manage that. So that would be something you have preset. So these are all preset. I can send signals right now to OBS. I can send a signal. I'm trying to think. You can send a signal to wherever you want to, as long as it's going to receive it, right? So maybe your I don't know, your program that your device that you use for your music and your soundboard. That might be something you use. But typically, what people do is MIDI is a way to send signals. Like you can send it to a lighting console or something like that to send a signal for to change the lights and change the color of the lights or something like that. You could do that, and then once you're done, you got it there. You pick the notes and the velocity and the channel. That's a MIDI protocol, right? That's how MIDI works. You pick what that is and sync it up to whatever this particular lighting console needs to change to that particular color that you want. And then you just simply say, okay, all right. And so you can it says set a custom value, say, I got some other options here. These are some of the settings here that you would set up. You can change it, be custom or whatever you want. Okay. But I'll lock that off. And then when I get to this song, the only way that'll work is I got to drag this action on that slide. And so when I get to that particular slide in the show, all I got to do is go through the arrows or use my mouse and click on each image, each slide. It'll automatically change the colors for me. And then you might need to make another action to change the colors back, maybe after 3 slides or whatever, however long you want that particular effect to take place on that lighting console. And this is why I say it's more of a production software than anything. Look, let me turn off this little mouse that I've been using. But it's more of a production software than it is a presentation software to me. It's literally for live production, right? So you can do all those kind of things, and that to me is completely crazy. All right. So I'm saying all that to say, when you can understand how you can simplify your actions, you will be able to take more advantage of how to use FreeShow. Now, how do you determine how to simplify your actions is the question that I would be asking myself. And the way that I always do it is I will find myself either forgetting to do something or wanting to do something that I don't have enough hands or time or ability to do seamlessly. So then my thought is next is, how can I turn it into an action? I have a tendency, at least at times, to forget to do something that I really wanted to do. Maybe it's important to me, or maybe it's important for the process. I have a tendency to possibly forget that, and I don't want to do that, and I need to make sure I do that. I'll make it into an action. All right. Let's see here. Thank you. You have saved me a lot of worries. Excellent. Excellent. Excellent for broken but believing. Chris Passion says, oh, so we could send out a signal to dim lights near stage when we run a video. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you can have a video. Look, I've got some videos on here. Let me pull some up. Let's see. So I got, I got a whole thing of videos called, oh yeah, the Bible Project. Perfect. So I'm gonna go to the Bible Project and I can drag this onto here. All right. It's loading up. So I dragged it too fast. So hold on. Okay. It's there. Okay. So I could, actually, you can drag it into a show. So let's do this. I'm gonna see, I'll take the Sabbath and I'll put it into here. It's thinking. I don't know where it went. Let's see. But I think I could put it in here. Maybe not. Does it only go over here? And I'm in the beta, so I don't know if it's doing. Okay, there we go. It says it could not load though. Okay, but it's in there. There's a video there. So it's on a slide now. And so if I were to take a function, go back to my settings, I could, and I think I kind of broke my beta. I can drag this action onto this video. And so I can go here, arrow over, and go to the video. And the video will start to play. And whatever action I had, it'll start to run. All right. And so, yes, you can definitely do that for sure. And I've got it muted right now, so it's on mute, which is fine with me for now because it's playing like a background video because you guys don't need to see it right away. But that's how that works. Okay. So I'm going to clear out the background and it'll clear out. Okay. But yes, you can definitely do that, Chris, for sure. And that's using the MIDI signal process. And to do that, you would just go down here to manage emitters on the bottom right, and you would click on that. And then you would just say add, and then you would pick a name, and then you would pick a type. And so you might use OSC. I don't even know what that is. HTTP, got an idea what that is, but MIDI is the option here. And then you'll pick your outputs. And I made a couple of networks on my Apple computer. On a Windows computer, you've got a process to do that as well. And then you'll pick the type that you want. It'll be a node on, a node off, or a control. I believe the control is fairly new. The node on and node off have always been there. Those are pretty typical protocols. So it would just depend on the protocol for your lights system, and you'll pick that, and then you would pick your message template. So you can pick what the velocity channel and note would be, and you would name it and give it a description, and you would be able to put that in as an action and drag it wherever you want to on any slide or whatever. It's just completely unbelievable. Like I said, it's unreal. Broken But Believing says in OpenLP, one can insert verse order. So if, for instance, if a chorus is repeated twice, I don't have to retype, but rather just input C1, C1. Is it possible in FreeShow? Yes, it is. Like I said, now y'all challenging me on my music stuff, which is good because I need to understand how this stuff works. But over here, right? So I got chorus 2 is my last thing that I got. And let's see, it's got verse, the bridge, the chorus 1, and then I got chorus 2, and it's completely blank. But verse, if I go back up, verse is up here, blessed assurance, right? So I'm here, I got this selected. If I select verse, guess what? It drops it in there again, and it's still up there. All right. And this is over here on the right side. These are your groups. And so you literally just drop it in and arrange your show that way. Hopefully that brings some understanding to that process on how that works. So you can, and it shows you over here, it shows it that it's on there twice, and you just build it out. Again, I'm not very musical, so I don't know how to, if you do verses twice or choruses twice or bridges. When I've worked in-house ministries, one of the things I would do is I would work directly with the worship leader to say, hey, put the song in exactly how you want it. And I don't speak music jargon. I never learned it, unfortunately. So I needed them to do that. And we would just go through it as a media team. We would actually navigate through it on our, for them, but they built it out and then they saved it for us. And and back then we were actually using OpenLP. So I loved OpenLP. It's totally different than FreeShow though. All right. My last point is understanding OBS. Now this one, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but this is an advanced feature or process. Understanding OBS for me is a game changer for any ministry because it gives you flexibility, just like how FreeShow gives you some flexibility to send stuff to different outputs to different computers and all that, different monitors and stuff. And I guess different computers through NDI as well. But you can send a signal through NDI to OBS. And when you do that, let me just try to share my screen here. Let's see. And this is where, if you look at any of my past videos, like when you use OBS for, like if you're doing a live stream, if you're using a Zoom meeting, I always use OBS for my Zoom meetings, anything like that. And all I do is I turn on this option that says start virtual camera. And I'll have my camera and everything set up just like this. And I'll do a whole Zoom meeting. And I never turn on the presentation in Zoom because I want to just share my screen from here, and it's just simpler and easier. And I can do my overlays all from FreeShow. I can control companion, all that stuff. And I literally strip Zoom of any authority or power of what I'm showing on my screen. And I use OBS. And all I'm doing is saying start virtual camera. And I've got it set to show my FreeShow through NDI. And I've got my camera in there and I organized this to look how it looks. I got a big white box behind all this and I just put those on top of the white box and made it look like an outline. Okay, that's production magic, right? Then I got a big orange background. It's called the yellow background, but it's orange distressed stuff. I don't know what you call it, paint. I don't know. It's all back there. And it looks produced to some degree. I'm not saying it's the best production, but it's my production quality that I have right now. Okay. So it's there and I can send this out to any live streaming program I want to, or I can live stream directly from OBS like I am. I'm actually streaming right now from here. And I went into YouTube and I went to start my show or to go live. I went live from YouTube, but I started my stream from OBS to say, hey, start streaming whatever I put in this program. That's what's showing up right now. YouTube is showing this to you guys. And so the way it works is I start streaming from here and I go live from YouTube. I don't go live from here. When I did that once, I had a hiccup with it that I wasn't expecting. And so I don't go live from here too often, if at all. I usually will start the stream here. So it's sending the signal out to my YouTube and I've got it connected in my settings. If I were to go to my settings, I could show you, but it doesn't necessarily show you. Let's see. Yeah. And so I just connected my YouTube account to it. So I did YouTube RTMPS, and that's how I actually live stream to YouTube using my computer only. So I got everything on my computer. I got my computer running YouTube right now and I can see it. I can see how many people are on, how many views I've got, how long the average viewer is. And I can also see my OBS screen. And if I want to, I can switch over and show FreeShow and all that kind of stuff. All right. Chris says, Can you control OBS with functions, i.e., start, stream, change scenes, etc.? So that's a very good question, Chris. You absolutely can. So for example, right now, I'm gonna go to that's using Companion. You can do it from FreeShow, I guess, if you wanted to, but most likely you want to do it from something outside of FreeShow. So if you had what's the a Stream Deck, you could use that, but I use just BitFocus Companion for free. It's a free program. You can buy the hardware, but you can also just get if you got I got an old iPad that I don't use anymore. I just use it as my tablet, as my screen for showing stuff, right? So if I go back to here, let's go to cameras. In here, let's do that to pop up. So in here, you'll see that I've got, oh, let me make it to where you guys can see it. Okay. In here, you can see that I've got a button that I made that's just a record button, right? So I'm going to show you that because I'm going to go back in here, all right? And I don't need this on anymore, but I'm going to press that button and you're going to see this say start recording, but I'm gonna have my mouse up here. So I can hit start recording and I control that from my actual tablet to control OBS to start recording. And I can stop the recording here, or I can stop the recording on my tablet by pressing that same button and it's stopping recording and it stops and that's saved automatically to my computer. So that file is automatically on my computer in my movie folder right away, right now. All right. And that's one of the things I love about OBS for recording. I can set the bit rate and everything. So I record and stream in 4K at about 15 megabits per second. Right now it's at 1489, 1516. You can see that down there. So, and it's 0 drop frames. I'm only using 8% of my CPU. That's why I like Apple computers, the M series computers, right? And my computer is completely silent. It's a little warm to the touch at the top. But I got this other fan on, my little fog machine fan that's on, so I can hear that more than I can hear my computer. I don't know. I very rarely hear my computer run unless I'm exporting like a video project or something like that. All right. So yeah, that is my thoughts of understanding OBS, understanding how you can get your outputs, your audio settings, and all that kind of stuff. This is a big deal that a lot of ministries don't understand is that you can set up OBS. So I got my settings, and if you go to audio, your mic auxiliary audio, I got it set to where that's set to come from my GH5 that's coming from my soundboard with that XLR adapter, and that's USB 3 digital audio because it's coming through my actual capture card. Okay. And so that is going to show up on any screen I go to. Okay. So if I go to my talking head screen, I still have my mic auxiliary. That's what I like about mic auxiliary. It's always going to run. It's always going to be there and running and invisible for you. And then I also have audio on for my NDI for FreeShow, so I can play something from FreeShow. I can play audio from FreeShow if I wanted to, but I've got it turned all the way down right now. So I can turn it up if I wanted to, but I keep it down for copyright rules and stuff like that. I don't want it to actually be streamed on YouTube, and I actually have a copyright on it, and it's not, and I don't have a copyright rights to it. I guess I don't know what the word is, but you guys know what I'm saying. It doesn't get flagged basically. So I keep that volume down unless it's music that I know I already have the rights to use, like for my countdown. All right. So I'm using my tablet with Companion, and that's an advanced level feature, I would say, that most advanced level users probably use with Pro Presenter, right? If you run in an event space and you do a lot of events and things like that, BitFocus Companion is really cool. All right, so from FreeShow, so that when we start a show, it triggers OBS. Yes, you can, right? Like it would just be a MIDI signal though, right? So that's how, so MIDI is a universal interface, right? So I would go into FreeShow and I would make, go back to my functions and I would make that emitter. I would manage to make an emitter, but then you have to go into OBS, and in OBS, you got to get a tool, right? So in OBS, I downloaded a tool called OBS MIDI MG setup. Okay. And when I go there, it gives you a pop-up window and you can make it. So I got one called live stream. I don't know what it does. But I can go to edit it and it says switch to live stream. So I can click on that and I don't even know what I do. Oh, I got to just set to change the scene, but let's see here. Untitled action. Let me see what actions I can do. So category, let's edit that. All right. Switch scene. Let's see if it gives an option. Yeah. So streaming, you can set it to start stream as a MIDI action and you just pick what the action is, right? So I can go back out and it's there, check that off, and if I were to put a MIDI signal in that's a note off, that's going to FreeShow, that's the networks, right? So I got the MacBook network and the FreeShow network. They just call it that. They don't say network FreeShow, but I can, if it's all ones, and I can turn this on to say listening for the message once or listening for the message continuously, it will find it. If I send that signal to in FreeShow, it's all ones. For the channel is one, the note is one, the velocity is one. It will start streaming on OBS on whatever slide that I put that on. Okay. So yes, you can make it to where FreeShow will trigger OBS, and all you need to do is you need to get a MIDI signal from FreeShow, and you need to get a MIDI signal reader in OBS. And these are both open source programs, so all that stuff is completely free. I guess you can buy stuff for OBS. I don't know. I never bought anything for it, but yeah, you can do that. And I just, like I said, you can pick anything. You make it do recording. You can make it start your virtual camera, all kinds of cool stuff. All right. And this is just the program I found that is there. There's probably plenty others. This is just one that I was trying to figure out how to use MIDI myself. And I was like, let me figure this out. And so this is how it works. And I make it work, and it works out fine. I believe I talked about this in one of my videos. I can't remember which one now, because there's, if you see one that has, not companion, but if you see one that has MIDI, I think I did one just understanding MIDI in FreeShow, and I think that's in there. Okay. And then you can turn it off to where it doesn't listen for that, which is what I'm going to do, because I don't want that. I'm going to turn this to none, because I just did it for testing. So I'll turn that back on and I'll close that out. All right. Great question, Chris. And thanks for joining us. Everybody that got to jump in and ask a question, very, very grateful that you did. But yes, understanding OBS is key, because OBS is a production software solely. Okay. You can create your scenes. So when I switch on here, if I go to primary split, it shows my camera, right? This is my camera there. If I go to, and you'll see here the scene. Oh, you can't see the scene switch, but it will switch. When I select this is what I was on earlier, the split screen scene, and that scene has something different than the other scenes that I have here. I've got one that's just for stage view, for example, and then there is just a FreeShow NDI signal from stage view. You wouldn't necessarily need to stream that. I use it for training for this show here that I'm doing with FreeShow Friday, but you will make your own scenes, and you can switch those out, and you can make those trigger through a MIDI signal in FreeShow. So you go to a certain song or a certain slide on a song, you can change your live stream view in OBS. So it's completely unlimited to me, is what I would call it. That's why I say Pro Presenter is the only rival. And in many instances, in many cases, it is completely on par and or exceeding what Pro Presenter can do, depending on what you need. I believe Pro Presenter has some things and some plugins or whatever they call it that work specifically for Pro Presenter. I believe you can live stream directly from Pro Presenter, but you can't live stream directly from FreeShow. You have to use something like OBS or something like that, which for me, that's not a big deal, because I like OBS. It works out perfectly fine for me. All right. For you, hopefully it does the same, and you'll find a good solution. All right. With that being said, you guys, I got to get going. It's almost 1:00, and I think I got a lunch meeting with my wife that I got to get to, and I don't forget the time, but I believe we got an appointment with somebody. So hopefully you all enjoyed today. Please leave any comments in any other videos that you've seen from me. I look forward to hearing from you on the next time around. All right. And so, real quick, for me to stop my show, what I do, actually, I don't even stop my show. I actually just hit a button on here called outro. So I'm going to try to go to my outro real quick and see if it goes out. Let's see what it does. Let me pull this down real quick. Hold on. And it should play an outro. All right. Let's see what happens here. Thank you for watching this video. And did that. And then all I got to do is go to my primary screen. I would ask you to like and subscribe. And I think that's great. But my goal is a little bit different. My goal is to empower as many people as possible all over the globe. And there's one way that you can really help me do that. And that is to leave a comment below with a question, a thought, how this video may have helped you, or things that were left out that you still have questions about. And to share this video with someone just like you. Someone who is looking for answers, someone who's curious and wants to grow. With your help, I believe we can build a community of people that want to grow.